Am I audible? Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. I, Rimi Jain, delighted to stand before you as the coordinator of today's international seminar on UN and UNESCO World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, jointly organized by Postgraduate College, Red City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, and International Council for Education, Research and Training on the topic of diversity and inclusion, driving force to innovation for sustainable development. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to today's seminar as we gather to commemorate the World's Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. This annual celebration, recognized every 21st of May, serves as a global reminder of the vast richness of our world's cultural tapestry and the indispensable role that dialogue and development play in fostering a more inclusive and harmonious society. In a world that grows increasingly interconnected, the significance of cultural diversity cannot be overstated. Our unique cultural identities, encompassing languages, traditions, beliefs, and artistic expressions, contribute to the vibrant mosaic that defines our shared humanity. Cultural diversity is not merely about acknowledging our differences, but about embracing and learning from them, allowing us to build bridges of understanding and cooperation across various divides. The United Nations proclaimed this day in 2002 following the adoption of the Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity by UNESCO. The declaration affirms that cultural diversity is as necessary for humankind as biodiversity is for nature. This day thus encourages us to reflect on the broader implications of our cultural exchanges, recognizing that a dynamic cultural landscape can spur economic growth, drive social progress, and promote peace and stability. As we proceed with today's seminar, let us remind ourselves of the immense potential that lies within our diverse cultures. Let us commit to nurturing an environment where dialogue flourishes and where the development of all cultures is supported and celebrated. Thank you for being part of this important conversation. Let us now embark on this journey of discovery, understanding, and collaboration. Moving ahead, it is with great pleasure and honor that we invite our chief patron of today's seminar, Dr. Navneet Kaur, to address this distinguished gathering. Dr. Navneet Kaur is an educator and leader with an experience of more than 22 years in the field of education and more than 10 years in school administration and leadership. She has qualifications of Doctor of Philosophy, Master in Commerce, and higher diploma in software engineering. Currently, Dr. Navneet Kaur is serving ICERT as Executive Director, Education Division. Ma'am, may I kindly request you to share your thoughts and insights with us.
Namaste, everyone. I welcome each and every participant who is here in today's virtual event from the fraternity of Postgraduate College, Lead City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, and International Council for Education, Research and Training. We are really we welcome each and every person who is present here, especially Professor Kabiru Adani Adamu, Vice Chancellor, Lead City University, Nigeria, Dr. Shobnajit, Associate Professor, School of Legal Studies, KR Mangalam, Professor Afolakmi Odin, Lead City University, Nigeria, Ms. Sarbani Bhavmik, Assistant Professor, Amity University, and all the participants. As we are celebrating World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, we need to reach that happy stage of our development when differences and diversity are not seen as sources of division and distrust, but of strength and inspiration. There's a beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi ji. Our ability to reach unity in diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization. If we want to include everyone, we have to help everyone develop their talents and use their gifts for the good of the community. That is what inclusion means. Everyone contributes. And I believe that is the utmost duty of any facilitator. It's a day where we are here to promote peace and understand. Thank you so much. And now we'll start our conference of the day. Jan ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your wisdom and expertise will undoubtedly enhance the significance of this gathering. Now, moving ahead, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce and invite our Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Kabiru Aderemi Adeyemo, for today's seminar on the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. Professor Kabiru Aderemi Adeyemo currently serves as the Vice Chancellor of Lead City University, bringing a wealth of expertise and dedication to his role. He holds PhDs in Accounting and Law, an MA in Peace and Conflict Studies, an MBA, and a Master's in Project Development and Implementation. With over 3 decades of experience in higher education, he has significantly advanced the academic community. Professor Adeyemo chairs the Committee of Vice Chancellors and Registrars of Private Universities in Nigeria and is an alternate chairman of the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities. Internationally, he serves as a council member and trustee of the Association of Commonwealth Universities and is chairman of the Board of Trustees for the African and American Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey. His numerous local and international awards, coupled with his reputation as a sought-after speaker, highlight his leadership and vision. Professor Adeyemo's contributions have driven remarkable growth and collaboration at Leeds City University and beyond. Please join me in welcoming Professor Kabiru Aderemi Adeyemo to address the gathering. Sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah, Professor Kabiru Adeyemo has been trying to join the link. He has not been able, just send a message to me now that he has been trying to join. However, he forwarded his speech to me right now. I don't know if I can go ahead and present. Thank you. Please, can I go ahead and present?
Navneet ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Welcome. You can, ma'am. Welcome at the board. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The keynote address, speaker, Dr. Sabina Jets, the Mrs. Sabina, the Registrar, Leeds City University, Dr. Mrs. Oyebola Ayeni Tabosa, all eminent scholars in the house. It is with great pleasure and immense pride that I extend my warm welcome to each and every one of you gathered here today at the International Seminar on the UN and UNESCO World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, organized by Postgraduate College of Leeds City University and International Council for Education, Research and Training, ICERT. This gathering marks a significant moment in our collective pursuit of fostering diversity and inclusion as the driving force behind innovation for sustainable development. As the Vice Chancellor of Leeds City University, Ibadan, I stand before you with a deep sense of responsibility and excitement. Our presence here underscores our commitment to promoting cultural diversity, dialogue, and development, not only within our academic institutions, but also on a global scale. The theme of today's seminar, diversity and inclusion, driving force for innovation for sustainable development, resonates profoundly with the ethos of our institutions. We recognize that in a world characterized by complexity and interconnectedness, embracing diversity in all its forms is not just a moral imperative, but also a strategic necessity. It is within the rich tapestry of diverse perspectives, experiences, and ideas that true innovation thrives, paving the way for sustainable development that leaves no one behind. Today, as we delve into discussions, share insights, and exchange best practices, let us reaffirm our commitment to harnessing the power of diversity and inclusion as catalyst for positive change. Let us seize this opportunity to explore innovative approaches that leverage our differences to address the most pressing challenges facing our societies, whether they be social, economic, or environmental. Moreover, let us remember the invaluable role that education, research, and training play in promoting cultural understanding, empathy, and respect. By investing in quality education that embraces diversity and fosters critical thinking, we equip future generations with the tools they need to navigate an increasingly interconnected world with compassion and wisdom. As we embark on this journey together, let us remain guided by the principles of the United Nations and UNESCO, which champion the fundamental values of peace, dialogue, and mutual respect. Let us walk hand in hand to build a future where cultural diversity is not just celebrated, but embraced as a source of strength and resilience. In conclusion, I extend my deepest gratitude to all the participants, speakers, and organizers who have contributed to making this seminar possible. May our deliberations today inspire us to redouble our efforts in promoting diversity, inclusion, and innovation for a more sustainable and equitable world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kabiru Ajeremi Adeyemo, for that enlightening and inspiring address. Your insights into the importance of cultural diversity and the role of dialogue and development in fostering inclusive and harmonious societies have set a powerful tone for our seminar. We are deeply grateful for sharing your extensive knowledge and experience with us. Thank you, sir. As we continue our seminar on the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, it is my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Dr. Shobhna Jeet. Dr. Jeet is an associate professor at the School of Legal Studies at K.R. Mangalam University, Gurugram, Delhi, NCR, India. She holds an LLM, has cleared the UGC NET, and possesses a PhD. As the convener of the advisory board and co-convener of the Motilal Nehru Chair, Dr. Jeet has been instrumental in shaping legal education and fostering a deeper understanding of cultural and legal issues. A significant number of her articles have been published in reputed journals. She has also authored a significant number of books. She has attended numerous seminars, faculty development programs, conferences, and workshops. Her extensive experience and academic contributions have significantly impacted the field of legal studies, particularly in promoting dialogue and development through a legal lens. Today, Dr. Jeet will share her insights and providing us with valuable perspectives on the intersection of law, cultural diversity, and sustainable development. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Shobhana ji. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rimijan. Ma'am, first of all, thank you so much, ICERT. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Postgraduate College, Lead City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, and International Council for Education, Research and Training, inviting me on such crucial topic to deliver the keynote address. We all know that Sustainable Development Goals have come in 2015. And the agenda which United Nations has come up with was no one leaves behind. So all the 17 goals were shaped in a way that they were ensuring that no one will be leaving behind. However, if we go in detail and in depth, there are number of categories, groups which are not covered under Sustainable Development Goals. There is a reason why I'm starting my address through one of the things which has not been included in Sustainable Development Goals. The reason is when we are trying to understand the two words, number one, diversity, and number two, inclusion. We have to understand where the SDG goals are lacking behind. What is not included and what shall be the diverse approach of Sustainable Development Goals. So there are, like, if we see from goal 1 to goal 17, you see, okay, goal 1 is talking about poverty, then zero hunger, then well-being, then quality education, then gender equality, so on. But these all 17 goals are not talking about differently abled people in specific. However, they are covered in one of the goal with indicator that I will discuss later on. But there is no specific goal which will be attained with their inclusion. And number two, the vulnerable groups of the society. So now you all are from the academia, and we all know that women and children are the most important. Women, children, and old age people are are always considered the vulnerable group of the society. I'm from law background, and when we study law, the vulnerable group means women, children, and old age people. Now, again, Sustainable Development Goals are not talking about old age people. So a larger section of the society is not included. The number third, transgender. The third category. We are standing in a century where we are talking about male, female, and other gender. But United Nations coming out with Sustainable Development Goal list is not talking about their role in achieving and attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, coming to my address topic, I would like to start to introduce and to understand what is diversity. If United Nations, while coming and working on these goals and claiming the inclusion of all the section of the society, so first, for me, the buzzword is diversity. So Bridge Tatham has given a very good, very mindful and logic definition for word diversity. He said, diversity is like being asked to the party inclusion is being asked to dance. So if you say that there is a diversity and inclusion is missing, then you can better understand there can no party without dance. Now, diversity and inclusion would be of little importance if there is no equity and equality. Now, equity and equality, again, the total different terms to understand. Equality is very easy to understand. Equality is samanata in Hindi. Equity is samata in Hindi. So, Indian law is always talking about equality with equity. समता के साथ समानता, equality with equity. Now, equality says whatever resources you have, distribute those resources as per the number of people, as per the number of categories which are available. But equity says whatever resources you have, distribute those resources as per the requirement. That is equity. The best Indian constitution evolved both the terms equity and equality. Now, for me, when I always trying to understand sustainable development goals with academic perspective, maybe the practical perspective, or for the policy makers, or for the legislatures, or for the organizations, the word meaning or interpretation shall be different. But I firmly believe that embracing this concept of diversity, it can help us achieving sustainable development goals. Now, before we talk about the intersection of sustainability and diversity, I think it is essential to highlight the underlying crux of diversity. This made me wonder what diversity is. And I looked upon the three most popular dictionary on the planet. Number 1, Cambridge, number 2, Oxford Learners, and number 3, Webster. Now, Cambridge Dictionary defines diversity as the fact of there being people of many different groups in society within organization. Webster says the state of having people who are different races or who have different cultures in a group or organization. But I would again say that on the basis of research which I have conducted, the word diversity is not interpreted, explained in a dictionary completely. Because it depends, right? Diversity is depend on which part of the world a person is raised in. Many of our thoughts are shaped by only environment and culture. Now, when I started working on this conversation throughout my personal professional life, I would like to propose a definition of diversity from a vantage point. Now, that is quite common to have conflict in diverse organizations because of differences in opinion or how one does their job. Therefore, it is crucial to have a common vision, shared values and principles that unite the irrespective of their differences. Such differences often disappear with time, but might need special training sessions on unconscious biasness, common cultural differences, etc. With the resolution of conflicts comes inclusion, which gives the team members not only a sense of safety and belongingness, but also self-esteem, which is one of the most important aspects of living to reach one's true potential. Now, it is possible that any organization can be diverse, but not inclusive, right? So in an organization, people coming out from different of culture and are working together, but it is not inclusive in terms of inclusion, gender wise, classification wise, and category wise. Now, this segregation which I am making is possible within the team if there is no affinity within the team organization. It is essential to have those shared of set of values that binds the employees together. For an example, in certain cultures, it is tradition not to drink alcohol or not carnivorous food. In such cases, people often cluster together. And another example we can take that challenges inclusiveness is that in certain cultures, people do not work on certain days. But in organization, are they given the flexibility of taking off on those days? Suppose in Dubai, the weekend starts from Friday, and it is still Sunday. But in India, it's nothing like that. In one region of India, it's weekend means Saturday and Sunday. But in the same country, in the different region, weekend means only Sunday. So see, this is diversity. This is one of the category and classification of diversity. And we need to put governance check that diversity and inclusiveness go hand in hand. Diversity is like being asked to party, and inclusion is let's have dance also. So for me, if I come to diversity, first thing which is important to be there is equity, which I have just explained. When we distribute resources as per requirement, that is equity. After reaching equity, you can attain equality, right? The person who needs more resources, you have given them more resources, right? The person who needs less resources, you are giving him less resources. Professor MP Jain has written Constitution of India, and he has written, please listen me very carefully. He says, all unequal should be treated unequally. All equals should be treated unequally, right? So I'm making it more simple, like a girl and a boy. If you're making a law and policy for common for all, that has to be different for in terms of their biological difference. The rule and policy shall be different from the boy to girl to transgender to lesbian to gay to vulnerable section of the society and so on. That is equality. And now, first step, equity, then equality, and then inclusion. By giving equality and equity, you are including complete section of the society. And then you can claim diversity. Then you can claim that, yes, diversity is there. Diversity does not mean the culture and behavior. Diversity means inclusion. Diversity means equality. Diversity means equality with equity. let's take a hypothetical situation where you need to hire a candidate. Two people, A and B, applied for a job and both are equally good. But with just one difference, candidate A is a Harvard alumni. Whom would you hire? I assume your answer would be candidate A, of course, because he is supposed to be more productive and efficient. Moreover, graduates from elite universities are paid more because of common notion that they'll be performing better. But a recent study says in this more realistic case, the predicted difference in performance would be closer to 1%. This challenged the idea of equity, and it is often the case of unconscious biasness. Okay, I'm sitting as an administrative officer and I have to hire few faculties. I'll also see, okay, you are from Delhi University. For sure, you are good. Okay, you are from NIIT, you are very good. Okay, you are from such a pioneer institution, you are very good. But in a realistic sense, this is only a diversity is which you interpret through the culture from where the people are coming. Diversity is not just about inclusion, equality, and equity. It leads to self-realization or achieving one's true potential, resulting in better performance. As per Maslow hierarchy of needs, a human needs to climb up several steps to be the best version of oneself. Now, physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness, and love needs self-esteem. And last is self-actualization. Self-actualization is a person's motivation to reach their full potential. But before self-actual, a person's basic needs must be fulfilled. Now, Maslow has prepared a wonderful pyramid. He says, our psychological needs are air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing. Then safety, personal security, employment, health, and property. Then love and belongings, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of belonging. Then esteem, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition. And at the last, self-actualization, achieving one's of the full potential. If we perform a 360-degree analysis of diversity and inclusion, we will observe that the concept of diversity is indeed helping one to achieve all their psychological needs. Maybe this is why truly diverse teams are up to 33% more productive. One of the study done by McKinsey company. Now, why saying this, diversity and inclusion? Now, while after understanding the word diversity and inclusion, which I hope I'm clear, is a outcome of equity and equality are essential tenets of sustainable development goals. A set of global objectives designed to address various social, economic, and environmental challenges. Now, these concepts are not only integrated to specific SDGs, but also uh, permeate the entire framework, emphasizing the need for equitable and inclusive approaches on all aspects of development. I really want to congratulate ICERT and the Pioneer Institution from Nigeria for organizing such important conference on such crucial topic, whereby we are talking about inclusive and diversity in sustainable development goal. However, if you will go through the list, then SDG 10, where they are talking about reduced inequality, and SDG 5, where they are talking about gender equality, with so many indicators, are directly connected to the principles of diversity and inclusion. But again, the question arises the same. For them, what is the meaning of diversity? Is the meaning taken, is the interpretation has been taken from the Cambridge Dictionary? Is the word inclusion including equity and equality? And then they are talking about gender equality, reduce inequality. SDG 10 says reduce inequality within among the countries. This involves taking measure to ensure the social, economic, political inclusion of all, regardless of age, sex, place of birth, ethnicity, origin, elimination of discriminatory laws, policies, practice, providing equal opportunities, reducing disparities, particularly for the most vulnerable and marginalized groups. This is the one place where vulnerable and marginalized group word has been inserted in the list given by United Nations. Now, for me, while trying to understand, interpret the word vulnerable, is included women, children, and old age. Marginalized groups, again, as per the our understanding, again, women and children. So I consider it is lesser inclusion. There has to be more diversity in nature. And if I talk about SDG 5, focuses on achieving gender equality, empowering all women and girls with so many indicators, the goal underscores the need for ending all forms of discrimination against women, girls everywhere. And it involves various targets, including the elimination of violence, ensuring women full participation, uh, in leadership and decision making, and guaranteeing equal rights to economic resources by promoting gender equality. SDG 5 directly contribute to the broader objective of creating inclusive societies. Furthermore, diversity and inclusion is also there in SDG 4, that is quality education, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable uh, quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And I think this also involves addressing disparities in access to education and ensuring that, again, the word used, vulnerable population, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children. Now, see, there under Article 4, they are mentioning it. But while talking to reduce the inequality and equality, they are not talking about these two groups. Then SDG 4, SDG 8, that is decent work and economic growth, also embodies the values of diversity and inclusion. It promotes sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Now, in this SDG, they again forget about that section, that important section of the society to which they are ensuring to give the equality and quality education. They will not be given a decent work, and they cannot claim, they cannot contribute in the economic growth of the country. Now, the pursuit of diversity and inclusion is indispensable for realizing the vision of SDGs. These principles are not confined to specific goal, but for woven throughout the entire framework, reflecting understanding of fair, sustainable, prosperous world cannot be achieved when all individuals, regardless of their background, their circumstances, have the opportunity to contribute to and benefit from the development. The SDGs recognizing that addressing inequalities, empowering marginalized groups, ensuring inclusive participation are essential for sustainable development, and they call on all stakeholders, inclusive governments, business, civil society, individuals, and I think to work towards this objective. They are calling each and everyone. Now, at the last, I want to sum up with the saying that while achieving these sustainable development goals, India has started Viksit Bharat at the rate 2047. Dr. Navneet Kaur must be agree with me that while we are talking about uh, vision in India vision at the rate 2047, while the year 2047 is given because there is the countries, I think 190, apart from the 197 countries which are signatory of United Nations, all are working on sustainable development goals, are way behind to achieve these sustainable development goals in specific goal 4, 5, 8, and 10. So the government, the India has already putting it more ahead, and they are talking about that we will make the India as a Viksit Bharat, as a Viksit India in 2047. So that's all from my side. It was wonderful to have you all. Thank you so much, and I hope the house will be open later on for the question. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shobna Jeet, for your insightful and thought-provoking address. Your expertise and perspective have greatly enriched our understanding of the critical role of equity and equality play in fostering inclusion and diversity and promoting sustainable development. We are deeply appreciative of the time and knowledge you have shared with us today. Your contributions to the field and your commitment to advancing dialogue and development are truly inspiring. Thank you so much, ma'am. Moving ahead, it is my pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, Ms. Sarbani Bhaumik. Ms. Bhaumik is an assistant professor at Amity Law School, Amity University, Kolkata, with several years of experience in the field of law and legal studies. She holds a BA LLB honors from Department of Law, University of Calcutta, and has pursued LLM degrees in business law and constitutional and administrative law. Currently, she is actively engaged in her PhD research at Raiganj University, West Bengal. Ms. Bhaumik's academic achievements include being awarded first class first in LLM at the Department of Law, University of Calcutta, and receiving the Best Company Law Award during her LLM at Amity University, Kolkata. She has made significant contributions to her field through presentations in international and national conferences and has numerous publications to her credit. Furthermore, Ms. Bhaumik has been recognized for her expertise and has been invited as a keynote speaker on several occasions. She has also actively participated in faculty development programs and has supervised numerous dissertations. Additionally, she serves as an external member of post-graduation studies at Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu, and Kanyashree University, West Bengal. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our esteemed speaker who is here to share her valuable knowledge with us.
Thank you so much, Rumi ma'am, for the warm welcome. I would also like to thank ICERT and Postgraduate College, Lead City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, for extending this invitation in the international seminar organized on the occasion of UNESCO World's Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. I hope I'm audible, ma'am. Rimi ma'am.
You're audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are
You're
audible.
audible.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So since, hello, Navneet ma'am, this is the second time we are meeting. Good to see you, ma'am. Okay, so like as I hear the word diversity, sustainable development, the moment that rings to my ears is like the so much like rich culture we have in this world, and this particular day is actually celebrated for the richness of culture across the world to attain peace, the world peace, through sustainable means and goals. And that is why I have chosen today's topic, which is related to diversity and the protection of culture and the traditional knowledge. So I would like to share my screen. Um, Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So as you can see that today, since we are talking about diversity, then why not biodiversity? So today I'm going to speak on protection of biodiversity and traditional knowledge under the IPR regime. So this is very much a need of the hour. Why? Because we actually need to be very careful for the protection of our environment. Like with the growing civilization, somewhere or the other, we have seen that we are extracting too much from the environment, and we are actually overlooking the very much sustainable growth of the environment. I'm not denying to the fact that we do not have a dedicated convention on this, or in India, we do not have a dedicated legislation on this. But what we have to see is that this is the need of the hour, that we should pay more heed for the protection of the biodiversity, so that we can think of a fuller environment wherein we can think about clean environment, and where we can also think about the sustainable development of our environment. Now, having said this, why I am saying that this is the need of the hour, that we should look into it, I would like to present two cases wherein I will show that what happens that if we do not have a dedicated legislation, this is exactly this will happen in our new future. Now, the first case that I want to present is Rosy Periwinkle case. Now, as you can see in the presentation, this is a purplish, light purplish flower. The origin of this particular flower lies in the valleys of Madagascar. Now, this particular plant was traditionally used by the native people of Madagascar for treating diabetes. Later on, Eli Lilly and Co., which is a pharmaceutical company which came to Madagascar and found two more significant medicinal value of this plant, that is to treat leukemia and Hodgkin disease, and which has actually shown like a very good result in treating leukemia within the age group of 14 to 16. That is the children group, and in fact they called it as a life-saving drug as well. Now, over around a year, the company earned almost like 75 million pounds. Okay. But in return, what we see is no such benefit was returned to Madagascar. Now, this is where, like this particular case, when it came up, it was argued by Lily Ali and Co. that the traditional people have only used it in treating diabetes and not in other form which they have actually found it. But at the same time, this cannot be denied that the origin, the country where the flower originated was Madagascar. But in return, while they have extracted this natural resources from them in an indiscriminate like scale, but no such benefit or no such acknowledgement was actually restored to Madagascar. Now, again, having said that, I will again present an Indian case, that is Dhanpat Seth versus Nilkamal Plastic Trades Limited 2008. Over here, again, India have a particular dedicated act to protect our biological diversity, which I'll come later on in my presentation. But talking about this particular case, we have found that in the year 2002, Dhanpat Seth has already obtained a patent in creating something similar to kilta, which you can again see in the presentation, that this is a kilta which is used by the people of Himachal Pradesh to carry things, and it is made up of bamboo. And Dhanpat Seth has actually just changed the form, to change the material of the traditionally used kilta, that is in plastic form. Now, Nilkamal Plastics in the year 2008 has again manufactured the same thing, like in the form of nylon and plastic, a mixture of nylon and plastic, wherein Dhanpat Seth sued him, saying that this is his this particular material that Nilkamal Plastic has made is infringing his like intellectual property rights. Now Nilkamal Plastics has contended that this is not an infringement of right because this is a traditional knowledge, and therefore Dhanpat Seth cannot have a patent right over this particular like kilta. So, if since we have the Indian Patents Act 1970, wherein these two sections were intensively discussed by the High Court of Himachal Pradesh, that is 2J, that talks about the word invention, and section JA, 2JA, that talks about inventive step. Now, invention talks about that a patent can only be granted to a new product or any process that involves an inventive step. And in this case, neither it was a new product nor it involved any inventive step. Now, the word inventive step was again like described in section 2JA, which says that it can be an inventive step only when there is an involvement of technically advanced step. But in this case, there were no technical advancement of this step. Okay, it was just a change in the material, that's all. And therefore the High Court actually revoked the patent that was granted to Dhanpat Seth, and also said that there were no infringement of his rights. Now, if I have to compare these two cases, what I can see is only because Madagascar did not have a dedicated legislation at that point of time to protect its biological resources, its natural resources, it was easy for the other nations to come, take away the natural resources from them, and earn like millions of money, and in return they did not receive anything. But if I have to analyze this case, since we had a dedicated legislation to protect the rights, somewhere or the other, like sooner or later, maybe after 6 years, ultimately the traditional knowledge was given its due respect. But at the same time, it cannot be ignored that since we are talking about traditional people, indigenous people, who, they are not much aware of their rights. And that is why, in the first instance, since Dhanpat Seth did not receive any such objection, it was easier for him to get away with the patent rights. And for the next 6 years, actually, he has exploited it as his own like intellectual property rights, like wherein the rights of the indigenous people were completely overlooked. Now, since this is the condition, and I said already that there is no denying to the fact that we do not have a dedicated legislation to this effect, but the problem here lies is there are not many nations who have incorporated in their national legislation for the protection of the biological diversity. Now, just to give a brief introduction about the UN Convention of Biological Diversity, is that it came in the year, like it took place in like on the in the year 1992 on the 5th day of June at Rio de Janeiro, and it like finally came into force on 29 December 1993. And this convention confirms that the states or the nation shall have the sovereign rights over its biological resources. Okay, which means the resources, the biological resources, within which territory it is actually lying, or within whose territory its origin is lying, that particular nation shall be its sole owner. Now, the reason being why this particular convention came into force is earlier, whenever we used to spot any nation having like a bulk or richness of biological diversity, they were considered as the heritage areas or the heritage site. But later on, this heritage sites were actually invaded, and indiscriminately like resources were pulled out from them, and in return no such benefits was like restored to them. And that is why it was the need of the hour that like the indiscriminate use or indiscriminate extraction of biological resources must be stopped through proper dedicated legislation in every nation. And if not, at least a fair and equitable share in the benefit must be restored to them, which these nations can actually utilize for their own scientific development within their territory. Now, having said this, let's look at the key objectives and the key principles of the conventions. Now, this convention have three main objectives. Okay, the first objective that it has, it's about the conservation of biological diversity. The second one is this biological resources must be utilized in a sustainable manner. And the third and the most important one is that there shall be a fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the utilization of the genetic resources. Now, many a times a nation may be such that
Vani
it
ma'am,
was. Yes,
Sir
ma'am.
Vani
Excuse
ma'am, I'm
me.
so sorry. If you can just move your slide, it will be easy for us to understand.
Yes, ma'am, your slides are not moving.
Yeah, if you can move your slide, it will be really beneficial for all of us. Thank you so
Ma'am,
much.
which slide you are seeing right now? Because I
Ma'am, it
have
is the
already
first
moved.
only.
First
It's the
line.
first slide only.
First only.
Protection of. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay, ma'am. Just a moment, ma'am. Is this visible right now, ma'am?
It is visible, ma'am, but yes, ma'am, it is moving.
Great, ma'am.
Since I already like I have gone a very way, so but still I would just like to show this slide that this is the flower that I was talking about. This is rosy periwinkle flower that I have talked about. The next one is it moving, ma'am? The slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now this is kilta. As the picture shows, this is the traditional kilta, which is used by the people of Himachal Pradesh, which is made up of bamboo. And in the next figure, like in the next image, that we can see there's a plastic made, which was actually patented by Dhanpat Seth. Now, this is the UN Convention on Biological Diversity 1992. This is, I have already talked about that it came in the year 1992 on 5th day of June. So I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so I was talking about the objectives. So first objectives were conservation of the biological diversity. The next one was utilization of the biological diversity in a sustainable manner. And the third one was the fair and equitable sharing of benefits. Now, coming to the key principles, the first principle that UN Convention on Biological Diversity 1992 had stated that whenever there will be a transfer of biological resources, that should always be on mutually agreed terms. Now, why it shall be mutually agreed terms? So that there is no exploitations of the nations. Okay, the exploitation of the nations where the biological resources are originating. Okay, so that they also get a fair and equitable share in the benefits that the other nations are acquiring through the sale and the marketing or the commercial purpose that they are putting into the in the market. The next is PIC. Now, the word PIC means prior informed consent. Now, what does prior informed consent means? Now, this thing, whenever a particular nation is extracting the biological resources from any nation, in such cases, that particular nation needs to inform the nation that for what purpose they are actually requiring the natural resources. Now, this is also important because this will give a window to the nation, the nation who is the originator of the biological resources, to decide that for what purpose they are actually giving the natural resources to them, and at the same time they will stand in a good position for bargain to take a share, a fair and equitable sharing in the benefits arising out of the utilization. And finally, this will also help them to decide whether the resources that is being taken from them shall be utilized in an environmentally sound use or not. Because this is also very important, because when we are extracting any natural resources, we should always try to put it in environmentally sound usage only, so that there is no harm caused or created to the environment as a whole. Now, having said that, even then we have a dedicated convention to this effect, still we are facing certain challenges. Okay, now what are the challenges? Let's see. The first challenge that the CBD is facing is due to the presence of TRIPS. TRIPS, the full form is TRIPS, is trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. Now, why like TRIPS is acting as an hindrance to the way of CBD is TRIPS under section 27(3)(b), it clearly says the patentable subject matter. Now, under the patentable subject matter is specifically mentions that microorganisms, non-biological beings, microbiological plant varieties are patentable subject matter. Now, over here, the TRIPS actually confirms patent rights over this kind of varieties. So when we are getting patent, that means it becomes a private property of the owner of the patent. But at the same time, CBD talks that the owner of the natural resources shall be the nation itself. So there is a clash between the private property concept and the sovereign rights. So over here, there is a clash like to decide who is actually the owner of the biological resources. Is it the person who have actually like received the patent rights, or is it the nation where the like natural resources is actually occurring? So there is one confusion over here, and normally the we have seen in the research and in studies that the Western countries trends to prefer TRIPS over CBD because that gives them an easy access to receive patent, and thereafter they can enjoy it for their own economic purposes. The next thing where TRIPS is like acting as a hurdle is there is no concept in TRIPS about the sharing of benefits. Neither there is any concept of acknowledgement of the area of origin, and finally there is no such concept of prior informed consent. And that is why it becomes very easy for the developed nation to come and invade on the developing and underdeveloped nations and extract as much as natural resources they can take for their own scientific development. Now, the second challenge, like I've already mentioned, that is the lack of natural legislation. There are many such nations which is lacking behind only because they do not have a dedicated national legislation to protect their natural resources or biological resources. The third one is there is a poor bargaining power of the nations. Now, even there are certain nations who have a national legislation, still they cannot make a good bargain with the developed nations due to the fear of many other things like the support from the like developed nations, or maybe the fear of war, or there are other such reasons where they do not stand in a good position to bargain with the developed nation, and that is why ultimately they do not get a fair and equitable share. And finally, though CBD talks about the sustainable development, still it does not talks about any limit that a country should actually give the permission to the other nation for the like the transfer of natural resources. So it may happen that the balance of sustainable development is actually not honored in case of like access and transfer of natural resources. So this is one another flaw that convention of biological diversity is actually facing. Now, after mentioning this, let's see the challenges that the traditional knowledge are facing across the world. Now, first of all, the first challenge that the traditional knowledge is facing is there is no agreed definition of traditional knowledge. Some say it is a sacred knowledge, some say that is a specialized knowledge which is limited to any family or kin only, and some say it is a communal knowledge which is already in the society for the benefit of the community or the society as a whole. And that is why, since there is no agreed definition, we cannot ascertain to whom the protection will be conferred. The next thing, like traditional knowledge can be of different forms. It can be in verbal form, it can be in musical form, it can be in expression by actions like dance, and it can be an expression through tangible forms as well, that we have seen in case of kilta. So that is why, which is like this, it becomes very difficult to ascertain that what is the subject matter of traditional knowledge, wherein or to decide what sort of IPR protection it should be provided, like it will be copyright or it shall be patent. So it becomes very difficult to understand that what sort of right it should be like given, like how it shall be protected. The next thing is the term of IPR. Like for every cases, we have a particular coverage for the protection of such kind of like right. But in this case, since we do not know the date of origin specifically, it becomes very difficult to ascertain like when it has originated and how long it shall be protected, or whether it has already expired or not. Coming to the fourth like challenge, that is, who is the owner of the traditional knowledge? Since it has, we do not know the proper originator or from where it has originated, it becomes very difficult to ascertain that to whom this like protection right shall be provided. Now, talking about the next one is like we have seen in case of Kilta as well. Since we are talking about traditional knowledge, the knowledge which is used by the indigenous people, they are not much aware about their rights, and that is why generally no such objections comes from their side as well. Like we have seen again in the case of Kilta, and this is how like Dhanpal Seth have easily received the patent in his favor, because there were no such indigenous people to object to the fact that this is their traditional knowledge. So this is one of the like challenges that is faced by the traditional knowledge. And finally, the last one that I have found is that many critics, they argue the traditional knowledge are basically outdated and obsolete knowledge, and they cannot be patented, because that they, since for the subject matter of patent, it has to be have an industrial application, it has to have an invented step as well. But in this case, since they consider it as an outdated knowledge, it cannot be a part, or it cannot be a subject matter of any sort of patent protection. And that is why on the basis of this, many a time they argue, and they also finally get the patent to that effect. So these are basically the challenges that is faced by the traditional knowledge across the world, which needs to be like addressed on an immediate basis as well, just to protect the rich culture and the heritage of the indigenous people. Now, we have also Nagua Protocol 2010, which is a continuation of CBD, which again confers that the state shall have the ownership over the genetic resources, and the indigenous and the local communities must be treated as the owner of the owner of such genetic resources, and a fair and equitable benefit shall also be restored to them in case their knowledge or the genetic resources which they have been protecting for years is actually utilized by any other nation. But at the same time, it has also been actually pointed out that this can only be achieved through a proper dedicated legislation only. So again, we are again depending on the incorporation of national legislation in each and every nation for the protection of biological diversity, and at the same time the protection of traditional knowledge as well. Now let's talk about India a bit. Like I mentioned that we already have a dedicated legislation to this effect, and to a very great extent, this particular act has protected the traditional knowledge and the biological diversity of India. But at the same time, what is lagging behind is awareness. This act needs to be publicized as much as possible, so that all the people, or being from the legal background or from non-legal background, they must know that we have a dedicated legislature that aims to protect our natural resources as well as the traditional knowledge. Now, this particular act actually point out 7 objectives. Now, this particular act not only protects the biological diversity of India, but also it also tries and it aims to protect the traditional knowledge as well. This can be seen from its objectives very clearly. The first one that it talks about is about the equitable share in benefits. Like whenever biological is resources taken from India, a fair and equitable share in the benefit must be restored to the nation. The next one talks about the sustainable use of the biological diversity. The third one, which is talking about the protection of the traditional knowledge, it says that the local communities, like whoever have been the protectors of the biological diversity or the originator of the traditional knowledge, their rights must also be protected under this particular act. The next one, it talks about that these community like local communities and indigenous people or the local people must also be given a share in the benefits, like along with the countries. If it is the traditional knowledge of any community, this community people must also be given benefits that is like arising out of its utilization. The next one, that is the fifth one, that talks about that like whichever sites which are having a diverse biological diversity must be declared as heritage site, which shall be taken proper care. The sixth point talks about the rehabilitation and the protection of the threatened species. And the last one, it talks about that there shall be the constitution of committees for the proper implementation of this act. Now, along with the objectives, let's look into the special and the striking features of the Act, which is in addition to the CBD. The first special features that it says that any Indian is actually free to use the biological resources for any purpose, provided it is not for commercial use. The next striking feature is like the Ved and the Hakims. Like Ved and Hakims, in it is a local language or a Hindi term for the people who are like those who have knowledge in medicinal values in plants and biological resources. They may have a medical degree, might not have a medical degree, but they are pretty much associated with the medicinal study that is arising out directly out of the biological resources from the extracts of the earth. So this kind of people has their work and their labor or their knowledge has also been acknowledged under this act, that they are also allowed to use the biological resources that is occurring in India. The third one says that any Indian again is free to use the biological resources for the research purposes. This actually gives a benefit to the Indian citizen to go very much far with the research purposes or to develop in their research skill and do much way in the scientific development using the biological resources. And the last one says that any sort of collaborative research work, if any person or if any Indian is interested in, they can always do with any government sponsored or government approved institution, provided they receive a approval from the central government. So over here we can see that we have already given a huge importance on research, on the research activities on natural resources within the Indian state, and this particular right has been entrusted to the Indians only, so that we feel very much empowered and we also get motivated to do research in this particular field. Now, this particular act has more or less 65 sections, but since it is not possible to cover all the sections, I will just point out the few important sections that needs to be like highlighted. The first one, for the first time, the benefit claimers has been described under this act under section 2A. Now, who is a benefit claimers and why it has been explained? The thing is, like I said in my last two slides, that in India it is not only the nation who is the owner of the like the natural resources, it is also the people, or it is also the indigenous people who has been conserving or who has been the originator of the traditional knowledge. They are also the owner of such like biological resources, and that is why while claiming the benefits, not only the nation, they should also get the same due respect and same sort of like benefits that will be like acquired by any other nation while using the biological resources. Now over here, the benefit claimers has been described as the conservers of biological resources and the holders of the knowledge and information. So in both the cases, they can also be the claimers of the benefits from the nations who are actually using their biological resources. Now, the next definition comes under section 2B that discusses biological diversity. Now, biological diversity, this particular word has been given a very wide meaning under this act, which says that all the sources and ecological complexes that is arising or that is existing within any of the ecosystem shall be included within the meaning of the word biological diversity. So this is not limited to any plants or animals, but anything that is a part of the ecosystem. And finally, the word biological resources has been explained under section 2C of the act, which talks about that any plants, animals, microorganism, or any part thereof, or any such any such products which is having a potential use and value shall be included within the term biological resources. But only two things has been excluded, that is value added products and human genetic material. Apart from that, all that is related to biodiversity shall be included within the meaning of biological resources. Now, coming to the most important section, that is section 3, that who are entitled to use the biological diversity of the nation. Now, section 3 clearly says that no non-citizen of India, like if you can see that any person who is not a citizen of India, first, next is a person who is a citizen of India but a non-resident of India, which is defined under clause 30 of section 2 of Income Tax Act, and any body, corporate, associate, organization, whether incorporated in India or not incorporated in India, and if incorporated in India, then if any of the shareholder is a non-citizen of India or a non-resident of India, will not get the will not get, is not entitled actually to withdraw any natural resources within the territory of India except the prior approval of National Biodiversity Authority. So it makes it very clear, section 3, that it is only the Indians who can use the natural resources for research purposes or for any other purposes apart from commercial purposes, which I have already mentioned. Apart from that, any person who is not a citizen of India or not a non-resident of India, or there cannot be any sort of veil also in the form of company or in sort of any sort of organization wherein any other non-resident of India or a non-citizen of India will extract the natural resources. This part has also been lifted, and it has been clearly said that even if one person is a non-resident or non-citizen in any company or in association, then also they will have to seek the prior approval of the National Biodiversity Authority. Then only they will have the access to the biological resources of India. So this has been made very clear under section 3. And not only that, furthermore, in section 6, this also says that without the prior approval of National Biodiversity Authority, no intellectual property rights shall be granted that involves the utilization of natural resources occurring in India. So this step is a very crucial step, and this says it very clearly that any indiscriminate usage or any without unauthorized usage of natural resources that occurs within the territory of India is strictly prohibited in India. That this is a very strong legislation that aims to protect the biological diversity as well as the traditional knowledge. And section 21 of the act clearly says that that anything grown or cultivated and conserved shall be regarded as a biological resources, and like if any person is extracting anything, any sort of monetary gain out of it, the same must be restored to the person who have actually grown or cultivated or conserved this biological resources. So basically section 21 again reaffirms the fair and equitable benefit sharing concept. And finally, section 58 talks about that any sort of contravention of the provision of the act shall be considered as a cognizable and non-bailable offense, and also prescribes a very strong strict punishment for the infringement of the infringement of any of the provision of the act, which says that it can extend to the imprisonment which may extend to 5 years, or a fine which may extend to 10 lakhs even. And if the benefit or the damage that has been caused to the environment is more than 10 lakhs, in that case more than 10 lakhs fine can also be imposed by the authority. So this is how we see that we have placed a very strong legislation for the protection of the same. But the need of the hour is we need to publicize the act as much as possible. We need to sensitize the provision of the act, so that we can actually, in the true sense, we can protect the traditional knowledge and the traditional indigenous people, and conserve their hard earned labor, and at the same time protect our natural resources from indiscriminate exploitation. So in conclusion, what I would like to say is the nations who already have incorporated a strong legislation, we need to see that whether these are the few things that has been included in our legislation or not. If we already have included, then we have to make sure that there is a proper implementation of the same, so that the true objective of the legislation can be achieved. And finally, the nations who have not yet incorporated any strong legislation, so this is the time, or this is the high time that we should think about one and try to incorporate this provision, so as to safeguard their natural resources from exploitation. Now I'm talking about when I talk about exploitation, I only do not restrict to the meaning that it should bring economic benefits to the nations only. Apart from that, we should also think in a wide scope that there should be a sustainable development of the natural resources. Like any sort of indiscriminate exploitation in the long run is not beneficial to the entire globe in a whole. And that is why we should make sure that we should protect our natural resources and traditional knowledge in a sustainable way. So in conclusion, I have pointed out 9 such points. So the first point that I have thought of is there should be a proper disclosure of the source, like from where the natural resources is actually being extracted. So this is point one. The next one is, and which is very important, that is prior informed consent. Now this provision is very important, not only to have the access and the transfer of natural resources, but at the same time this is also very important to know why the nations are requiring the natural resources from the nation. The third one is fair and equitable benefit sharing. The fourth one is protection of traditional knowledge. So the people, by this way, the indigenous people who are not even aware of their rights, these people will get some sort of privilege, some sort of recognition in the long run, and some obviously some economic benefit should be accorded to their credits. The fifth one is CBD must be given a priority over TRIPS. Right now, if we see, either we can call for an amendment to TRIPS, otherwise we can give a more priority over CBD so as to protect our biological resources. The next point that I have seen is since we are thinking about in a broad sense, the patentability, in every legislation we must take care that there is a proper exclusion of life forms. Like in India, the Indian Patents Act 1970 clearly points out that life forms are not patentable. But if the countries who are still following TRIPS, in that case we have seen, since TRIPS does not clearly talks about anything such that, so that is why it should be we talk about plant patentability of plant variety as well. So again, plant variety is a form of a living life form. So that is why we should think about exclusion of patentability of life forms. The next point is incorporation of CBD in national legislation. The objectives of the CBD must be primarily incorporated in national legislation. The eighth one is it calls for the amendments of TRIPS, especially to Article 27(3)(b) of TRIPS. And finally, patent must only be granted to novel and non-obvious like things, which is like non-obvious to the people who are skilled in the same field. And this is how I think we can like think a step ahead for the protection of biological diversity as well as the traditional knowledge. Like with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you, the entire audience, for being so patient, and thank you once again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you so much.
Sarbani Bhaumek, for your insightful and thought-provoking address. Your insightful presentation on diversity and inclusion, a driving force for innovation and sustainable development, highlighted the crucial role of protecting biodiversity and traditional knowledge within the intellectual property rights regime. We are truly privileged to have you as our keynote speaker. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, we have the privilege of hosting an open house discussion and question answer session by Dr. Navneet Kaur. This open house session provides a unique opportunity for all participants to engage directly with Dr. Kaur, ask questions, and exchange ideas on the latest trends and advancements in research technologies and innovation. I encourage you all to actively participate in this interactive session as Dr. Kaur's expertise promises to enrich our understanding and inspire new avenues of exploration. Ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Rimi. It's a beautiful saying by Nelly Borrero that diversity is a fact, but inclusion is a choice we make every day. As leaders, we have to put out the message that we embrace and not just tolerate diversity. I'm really touched after hearing the thoughts of Dr. Shobna Jeet, Ms. Sarbani, Professor Afol Akmi for sharing Professor Adani's view. Diversity requires commitment. Achieving superior performance, diversity can produce further action, most notably a commitment to develop a culture of inclusion. People do not just need to be different, they need to be fully involved and feel their voices are heard. And this is a session where we really want people to interact now. I can see one hand raised. So we have two speakers over here. So you'll be speaking your question and you will be referring to which resource person you are referring that question. I'll take first question from Yashpal Singh ji. Please unmute yourself. You have to raise your hands if you want to ask a question. Yes, Mr. Yashpal, ask your question. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Yashpal. Mr. Yashpal. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Yashpalji, we can hear you. You unmute yourself. Do you want to ask a question? This is my last call to you. I'll move to Grace Aknabi. Hi, Grace.
Hi.
Wonderful to have you again.
Yeah. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm great.
Yeah.
And we are celebrating such a wonderful day.
Yes. First of all, I want to appreciate ICERT and the keynote speakers, especially Shobna and Sabani. Sabani has actually, diversified, and her diversion has actually opened our eyes to other areas of biodiversity, and that's very good. And to Shobna, explanation on equality, equity, and inclusion, very, very interesting.
Grace, your voice is muted. Please unmute yourself. Grace, unmute yourself.
What I want to say is that we will appreciate if ICERT can make available these two lectures for participants. It's highly enriching, and it will help all of us to develop, in other areas of the sustainable development goals. I really appreciate ICERT for always, organizing interesting and, enriching seminars. So more grease to your elbows, more power to your elbows, sorry. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Grace. You're always inspiring and motivating, and we feel privileged that you're a part of us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you want to ask any question, or I'll move to next person? Okay, I'll move to Monsuru. Monsuru, yeah, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Yes, Monsuru Ade, please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon,
afternoon.
Monsuru.
Firstly, I sincerely commend ICERT. I commend Lee City University, other key partners and keynote speakers of this international conference. I salute you, and I humbly want to ask that we need to sustain this culture of international, intercontinental, and intercultural perspectives on global issues like this. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being part of this historical and intellectual brainstorming. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Monsuru, for the words of appreciation. I'll move to Dr. Prakash for his question. Dr. Prakash.
Hello.
Yeah, namaste.
Uh,
Please ask your question.
Very interactive question was there, and very much I very much appreciate to you as well as all the dignitaries who have presented their presentations and got such intellectual views regarding the diversity. But my question is that, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
My question is that so many places I have visited. One example I want to quote regarding the Sikkim of Indian state as well as Nepal. There, when I visited regarding for the tourism purpose, they were asking regarding the identity card. Suppose that they are accepting only voter ID card in Sikkim as well as in Nepal, but in other states they are accepting the Aadhaar card. So regarding tourism purpose, is there any issues regarding the identity of a person? Because India is a very diversified country, but the nation should accept only the one identity that is Aadhaar card. What is the difference between why this diversity in this diversity these two types of issues are going on?
So what I have understood from you that Sikkim and Nepal, they are not accepting Aadhaar card, they are accepting voter card. They're accepting voter card or passport, right? This is what you wanted to ask. And why there is discrimination when the nation is same? Okay, your question to any of the resource person can take the question. Dr. Shobna or Dr. Sarbani, as Dr. Shobna is the legal advisor we have. So I'll request Dr. Shobna to take this question because she can give the legal facts over here.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm right there, Navneet ma'am. So, see, we all know that in the situation with the Sikkim and Nepal, if you specific talk about the passport wala thing and the Aadhaar card, I think Aadhaar card is more linked with our personal information, whereby we supposed to give our biometric, we are supposed to give our the complete information, right? And I mean, the same thing is with the passport. So while showing one of the identity card, how does it make any difference to me? Suppose I'm going to fill some form for government job, and the option available to me that either I have to submit my Aadhaar card or my passport, right? the both of the identity cards are carrying the same information, rather than Aadhaar card is carrying your biometric, which is more sensitive. Which, if you ask me personal, as a law person, as a law student, I will never ever prefer to give my Aadhaar card.
I totally agree with you,
Madam,
Dr. Shobna. Nowadays, even this is strict when you go and purchase anything in the any showroom and they ask for your phone number. You can refuse that. Before
Correct.
it, we used to give, but now we all are aware because everything is related. Biometric is there, so if they can open our accounts. It's very, very visible over there. So we
Correct.
have to be very particular. Dr. Prakash, I think ma'am has answered your question.
Madam, I have got the point, but my question is again regarding the same thing which she has just told me, that Aadhaar card contains some biometric information, sir. But the voter ID card is also contains information regarding, because it contains the barcode as well as the identity serial number, which can also be disclosed by anyone or get by anyone. But in some other states, they are not accepting the other voter ID card. They are accepting only the Aadhaar card. Then is there why they are not accepting the voter ID card? Why they are accepting only Aadhaar card?
Sir, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which part of the Sikkim and Nepal you are talking about, because
Yeah, I'm talking about whole Sikkim.
sir,
Because
this is
Madam, I have visited North Sikkim as well as South Sikkim.
see, Dr. Prakash,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think you are also from you're basically from North India.
Yeah, I'm basically from North India. I
Yes,
belong
sir.
to Agra district.
So that in the initial of my lecture, I specifically elaborate the word diversity. So that was the point. This is the platform where I can't comment on that particular thing, but yes, I accept that there is a discrimination when so many people, when many of my colleagues are also working there in Sikkim and facing these type of challenges. See, but I don't think I don't have the
Madam, I have
answer for that.
actually the thing was that I have got information from the localized people of the Sikkim. They told
Right,
me that during what happened, the Bangladeshi people, they are migrating with the help of Aadhaar card, the duplicate Aadhaar card. That's why they are not accepting the Aadhaar card.
correct, correct.
This was the reason. Not the biometric, because when I
So,
visited the
so
Jammu and
Dr.
Kashmir, they
Prakash,
have
you
they have
yourself have
also
given, Dr. Prakash, you yourself have given the answer.
Correct.
See, it is sensitivity area. So
sensitivity, because madam, our
sometimes,
country is
yes.
diversified.
So
Our country is
exactly,
diversified country. Our nation is
yes.
one. They should accept the one thing, one identity card, because it is acceptable by all the states. Then why Sikkim as well as Jammu and Kashmir? They are not accepting Aadhaar card. They are also accepting only voter ID card.
Sir, I think the matter which you are discussing is very crucial, but I don't think this is the appropriate panel, appropriate channel, and appropriate platform to discuss it, because we have the
So we are
international
talking about the
participants,
legal issues,
right? Sir, we
madam.
have the
We
international
are talking about the
participants
legal issues
here.
regarding the diversity of the country.
We have
So
the
this is the legal
legal,
issues regarding the diversity. That's
while
why I put this question.
right, right.
So
But sir, the point you are discussing, that is diversity within India, right? Whereby when I was discussing, that is diversity across the countries, and the diversity you are talking about, that is across India. So this is I really respect your question. I really respect your feelings. But at the same time, sir, this is not the appropriate panel, appropriate platform to discuss it. If we would have, I can request Dr. Navneet Kaur ma'am, that if we can have a platform where we all can sit at national level and can discuss such type of discrimination. I agree and I accept that discrimination is there.
Okay, ma'am.
thank you, ma'am, for this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Dr. Prakash, as ma'am said, it is a sensitive question, and I'll request all the participants, being an educators, so where the diversity and inclusion comes, we must cater to our field area also where we are working, because so that we can help. See, we are in a noble profession, and we are here to cater to a lot of new nurturers. We have to nurture them in a different way. So how we are taking that kind of challenge. So I'll request all the audience to keep the question to that track so that the resource persons can help us and we can explore new ideas and learnings. I'll move to Mary Oira. Please, Mary, unmute yourself. Mary Oira, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much. I'm so.
Yes, Mary, please keep going on. Yes, Mary. Mary Oira.
I guess it's the next
Now, what is the situation now in that place concerning that periwinkle flower she talked about? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Serbani, this is question for you.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, right now, the benefit has already been acquired by Lily Co. And they actually have won the case on this, that they have successfully pointed out, showing that the people of Madagascar only used it for the purpose of treating diabetics only. And they had placed this point that they are using it for as a cancer saving drug. So in this case, they have showed that they have technically advanced the utilization of the flower, and they have been using it for now as well. But what I wanted to point it out is that the people of Madagascar had not received any benefits just by sharing the natural resources. But as to what they like, whether they won the case or not, of course they had won the case, and the Madagascar did not win the case, and neither they have received any benefit out of it.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm asking this question because we are also facing the same kind of problem in our own country in Nigeria. Many of our resources have been taken away like this and we don't benefit from it. So I see similarity between our own country and what is happening in that country. That's why I asked that question. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am, for asking this question. This is why my main agenda was lying, that if we do not have a dedicated legislation to protect the natural resources, this is something that even our story will end up like this Rosie Periwinkle case only. So this is high time that we should try to think about a dedicated legislature to incorporate provisions to protect the natural resources as well as the traditional knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I'll invite Mr. Yash Verma to ask his question. Mr. Yash. Mr. Yash Verma. Mr. Yash Verma, you can ask your question. You can unmute yourself. Okay, next I'm calling Mr. Remy Hazan. Mr. Remy Hazan, please unmute.
Okay, I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Please ask your question.
Okay. Thank you very much for this insightful lecture, and it's a pleasure to be part of this, and I hope that it will continue. My question is, I want to be further enlightened on the main distinction between equity, equality, and diversity in the context in which it was put. I wasn't too clear as to what the definite distinctions are. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Shobna, once again, if you can explain between equity, equality, and diversity. 3 things he wanted.
All right, ma'am, see, equity, and there is a very thin line difference when we say equity is like, suppose you have 10 oranges, right? I'm making it very simple. Like I have 10 oranges, and oranges contains vitamin C. And 20 students are sitting in front of me, right? So, sorry, 10 students are sitting in front of me. So equality says give 1 to each, because 10 oranges, 10 students, give 1 to each. That is equality. However, equity says that if one is suffering from from deficiency of vitamin C, give him 2 or give her 2. And the one who doesn't need it, don't give it to it. That is equity, right? Now, while as a nation, we are practicing equity to achieve equality that will make a way towards diversity. Now, how? There are different categories of people in a society, different types of different classification are made. I would prefer to say the positive classification have been made in a society, right? That these are the people who doesn't need any support, and these are the people who need support in terms of scholarship, support in terms of reservation. Now you can again ask a question on the reservation policy, but again I would say that this is not the appropriate platform to discuss that whether we should have reservation or not. But the point is that this reservation in terms of caste, class, creed, place of birth is encouraging diversity. When you are including through equality and equity more and more people in policy making, that is diversity. So that is how I interlinked from equity to equality, and ultimate goal is diversity.
Beautifully
Now,
answered.
thank you very much. I understand that perspective. But my question to you now is, I understand the place of equity, I understand the place of diversity. Is equality practicable in governance?
Is equality
Is it practicable?
in governance?
Any kind of governance, it doesn't matter. It can be governance at organism level, it can be governance at local level, it can be governance at family level. Is equality practicable?
If you ask from me, for me, equality is injustice.
Thank you.
As a law scholar, I think equality should come up with equity. It shouldn't be in isolation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for
Thank
this
you very
question.
much.
I'll invite Bashir Alas for the next question. Mr. Bashir Alas, please unmute yourself.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Please ask your question.
Yes, I want to commend the Lee City University and ICERT for coming up with this educative seminar. My question goes to the last speaker. May I know the rationale behind restricting that resource or research to only Indians? Don't you think it will be good if it can be made open, particularly to research institutions across the globe, so that it will be more known and it will be acceptable? These are my questions. Thank you.
Dr. Sarbani, this question is for you.
Ma'am, may I please hear the question once again?
Mr. Bashir, if you can explain it once again.
My question is on the restriction of the use of the resources within India only, particularly to citizens of India. My question goes this way. Is it no good if it can be made open to other research institutions so that it will be known across the globe? Why is it restricted to India? Will that enhance competition? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Well, it is not only restricted to Indians. I think you did not follow the presentation. Well, I'm saying it is also available to the non-Indians as well, provided it receives the permission from the national authority. Once they receive the permission of the national authority, even the non-residents of India are free to use the natural resources. See, we also need to think about the protection of our natural resources as well. So once the non-residents of Indians, they specify what purpose they are utilizing it and how much quantity they need, all those sort of, once they actually reveal the information to us, and on being satisfied, obviously the national authority will give them the permission, and once they receive the permission, they can also use the natural resources for scientific purposes and like you said, for research purposes as well. So this is just a restriction that has been made for the protection, that's all. It has not restricted anybody or any non-residents of India to use the natural resources. We are open to share, just we need a little bit of information, that's all.
Very
Thank
truly
you
said.
very much.
National security is also something very, very important, and every country has to take care of that. I'll invite for my next question, Elufemi Izola. Elufemi Izola, please unmute.
Thank you for the opportunity given to me to comment and ask this question. I'll just like to say first that unity is not uniformity. We may not be the same, but in terms of values, we should be united so that the nations and everything around us can move and progress as expected. While I want to ask this question from human resource perspective, as an administrator and a leadership expert, if you have a contest where cultural integration is not encouraged by the management, those are the heads of affairs. I would like to ask, how can a follower subtly introduce this such that it will not affect in any way the leadership or will not bring about conflict between the follower and the leader? Thank you.
Any of the resource person wants to answer this? Izola, if you can repeat your question, that you are seeking a follower, what I've understood, a leader for?
Yes, my question is this. In a context where we have the management who are not encouraging cultural integration, cultural diversity among the people, especially the employees, but we have the followers who has been exposed to this kind of lecture and seminar. How can such a follower subtly introduce this in the system such that it will not bring about conflicts between the follower and the management? Thank you.
So how to cope with the conflicts having between a follower and the management? This is what Izola wants to ask. Any of the resource person wants to give answer? Dr. Shobna?
Yes, Navneet ma'am. So, see, I think as we all are, most of us are from academia. So, what I feel is the more we are aware, the less there will be any exploitation. You must be agree with me that even educated people are not aware about their right.
I totally agree with you, ma'am. It's very important that being an employee, I should be known about my areas of expertise, my duties, my responsibilities, facts I am accountable to. And then when I'm pursuing my lectures, my education, my teaching, definitely it is going to benefit my students. And to coordinate with the management is also something very, very important. We need to understand their perspective also. The shared vision is very, very important. That is why we said that employees must have shared vision policy so that we can understand why we are standing over there and who are the real beneficiaries, the students. So whatever we are planning, the centric approach need to be there for the learner. Thank you so much for this question. Now I'll call P. Subha for the next question. Miss P. Subha. Please ask your question.
Yes, good evening, ma'am. Thank you for ICERT organizing for the insightful and which is mandatory for the sustainable development goal. My question is, throughout India, 8.6% of Adivasis are inhabited Do we have any forum or association for preserving the indigenous traditional knowledge? Thank you.
Dr. Sarbani, this question is for you.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we do have many such organization and platforms. They are actively working for the protection of indigenous people. Like we are also working on GI tags. In fact, I think there are many such national law university. One of is such national law university in West Bengal itself. They have gone to a very extent, like going to different districts of West Bengal to see that what are the traditional things that the people they are manufacturing. We also organize trade fairs. We also organize the different sort of fairs for the recognition of the indigenous and the traditional handiworks of the people, so that their hard works, their knowledge as well as their skills are actually coming up to the platform. And not only that, like I said, the national law university is already on it to provide them GI tags. In West Bengal, the National Law University of Juridical Sciences have already successfully brought one GI tag for the indigenous people. So this is how in different platforms they are working. Since the indigenous people, they are not aware much about their rights, so it is the duty on the legal professionals and the practitioners who are like enlightened in the field of law. They are reaching out to the different people, and they are trying to like gather as much data they can actually collect. They are also like taking research collaboration with other institutions, so that they can go for proper research regarding the traditional knowledge, and accordingly they are also applying for GIs, and they in few cases they have already secured GI tags for them. So it's not that we are not on it. They are pretty much like we are on our heels to actually provide protection to the traditional knowledge.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll take Mr. Daniel's question. Mr. Daniel, please unmute yourself.
All right, thank you very much. Please, was speaking about this and quality and
Mr. Daniel, your voice is cracking. Yeah. If you can switch off your video and you can ask your question, I think the voice will be better. Yeah, please.
All right. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry, Mr. Dahlia. There is some internet issue, I think. We are not able to hear you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'll ask Vaniha Bedekar. I'll invite Vaniha Bedekar for the last question.
Yeah.
Vaniha Bedekar, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you for giving chance for me to questioning. So my question is, for transgender children in schooling, there is no equality in treatment of social behavior towards children. Is there any there is a cause of indifference towards them? Is there any legislation to ensure equality of treatment towards them? If there is no, then there should be a process should be initiated towards them.
Dr. Shobna, please answer this.
Yes, ma'am, right there. See, ma'am, there is one act, Transgender Medical Health Act 2016. So act is right there, legislation is right there. So I mean they are medical health and they are covered under that act.
Yeah, I understand, ma'am, that due to the medical this thing they will cover it. But if the child feels in the class that I am not like normal from other children, how the teacher also feels that he is different from other. So what kind of process has been should be initiated in the schooling? So these kind of inequality or this kind of social behavior, this thing should not come. So how we can make the children comfortable in schooling also with other children, normal children?
So, ma'am, I think this question is more related to psychological part. See, as a human being, sometimes we have unintentional biasnesses, right? We do have unintentional biasness, right? So,
Yeah.
and at the same point of time, if I see that there are 100 students sitting in my class, and one of them is transgender or lesbian or gay or any other category, he belongs to and sitting in my class, so my that unintentional biasness will definitely make me react in different ways, right? So I think this question is related to more psychological part, है ना? So I don't think new education policy is also talking about it. However, we are talking about holistic development, but still, it depends upon the person and uh, individual.
Individual, yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
correct.
Ma'am, thank you.
Neha, ma'am, I want to add up something over here. Being a CBSE school principal, I have seen so many students. First thing, you never get to know whether any child is transgender or anything like that. We don't have any such column where this kind of specification is there till now. I have not seen in my 22 years of career. Second thing, now every CBSE school is an inclusive school. So we have got people, I don't say any child a special child. I normally say they have a different kind of wiring. So that's why they are little different. So how to treat them is again, we need to have a different kind of methodology for that. When we speak about inclusion, then first thing we have to teach our kids about the empathetic behavior. So empathy is one thing very, very important. We make buddy friends, buddy, partners over there. They take care of each other. And kids are so soft, they don't understand all this transgender and all. Once they become a group, they feel that yes, they belong to the same class. They are together. And these kind of hassles doesn't come. I have never faced these kind of problems in my school. It depends on the culture of the school, how you're designing the culture of any particular institution.
Yes.
Thank you for your question. Time
you,
is
ma'am.
already there, but still I would like to take one question. I think there is Monsuru Ademio. I think you want to ask something. I can see you moving from there. Do you want to ask some question? Please unmute yourself. Ademio, yeah.
My question has to do with traditional knowledge. So, and it has to do with phytomedicine, or what we call alternative therapy or like in Oriental countries, you have been able to advance, to promote and advance traditional medicine or alternative therapy. Despite its efficacy, many see it as fetishism, many see it as occultism, and I also observe that many stakeholders in also trying to promote it. So I just from a professional, what do you think
Mr. Jamil, there is again network issue. What I can hear from you is you wanted to know how to promote the traditionals. After that, I'm not able to hear you. Please, if you can sum up your question.
Yes,
I'm so sorry if you can write your question in chat box because I'm not able to understand your question. I can only hear a few lines. That is, please, if you can write in chat box, we definitely take that question. Till then, I'll invite, this is Babatunde Adhiyabai. You can write your question, Ajamoy, in the chat box. I'll definitely take that.
So much.
Till then, I'll
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please ask your question, Mr. Adebo.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Please ask your question. Mr. Babatunde, yeah.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentations. I have about 2 questions to ask. The first one is a sequel to a question I've been asked before. In developing countries, especially in Nigeria, where some resources, natural resources, belong to some community, we discover that despite despite the fact that there are laws that protect them and that vest some benefit to them, we discover that these people are not benefiting anything. And in most cases, the inhabitants of this community have resorted to fighting, to violence. So I want to ask, are there measures that could be taken instead of violence to ensure the rights of these communities where the natural resources belong? Question number two, I want to ask, how can an organization effectively measure the impact of their diversity and inclusion? And the third question is,
so one by one, first because your first question belongs to Dr. Sarbani and second belongs to Dr. Shobna. Let's go one by one, please. Please repeat your first question so that I can invite Dr.
Okay, my first question is that there are many communities in developing countries like Nigeria that have no benefits about natural resources. And in most cases, some of them have resorted to violence to claim what belongs to them. I want to ask, are there other peaceful means, maybe internationally, that they can enforce their right and get their benefits?
So when we talk about the international regime, like I said, we already have CBD. But the thing is, again, CBD clearly says that it is something that needs to be included in one's own national legislations. Since I compared with India, since I already showed with a case study, since we had a dedicated legislation, we could stop the exploitation from the other nation. So similarly, one, like we always say, charity begins at home. So that is why, like, if you want to protect your own natural resources, since we already have a clear convention to this effect, we should try to incorporate the key objectives in our own national legislation, and it is only then we can think about protecting our own natural resources. Like if you want to give more benefits, like you have already mentioned, there are different communities who are not getting any benefits, so please try to incorporate some provision in the national legislation as well, where you will recognize the hard work and the skills of the indigenous people and try to give them a portion of acknowledgement, if not acknowledgement, at least some sort of economic benefits to them. And this is how we can actually try to uplift the labor and the skill and the hard work that they have invested for so long in the protection of the biological diversity.
Thank you, ma'am, for this answer. Thank you, Babatunde sir. I have to close, but I want to promise Daniel to take his question. It is to Dr. Jeet. Do you think equity and equality is globally attainable and practicable even among organizations such as United Nations that pushes policy implementation in this regard? Example is how COVID-19 vaccine and treatment was handled with biases at that time. This is to Dr. Shobna. This will be the last question of the day. Do you think equity and equality is globally attainable and practicable even among organizations such as United Nations that pushes policy implementation in this regard? Dr. Shobna, are you there? I'll request Dr. Sarbani to take this answer if she is not there. Dr. Ms. Sarbani Bhaumik, if you can take this.
Yes, ma'am. I missed the question, sorry.
Do you think equity and equality is globally attainable and practicable, even among organizations such as United Nations that pushes policy implementation in this regard? He has given an example that COVID-19 vaccine and treatment was handled with biases at that time.
Ma'am, actually, I think Shobna ma'am has already said it very clearly that if we talk about equality and equity, this is not possible from both ends to attain both. And she has already like said that if I have to choose one, she would prefer equity rather than equality, because
Yes.
equity is something which is more practicable in sense rather than equality.
Very beautifully answered. Thank you so much, ma'am. See, it's a diverse mix of voices and it leads to better discussions, decisions, and outcomes for everyone. And I think this is the crux of today's seminar. Let me present my vote of thanks before I hand over to Rimi ma'am again. From my bottom of heart, I really want to thank all those resource persons and the chief guest, sir, for today's conference. Professor Cabru Adani Ademio, your speech was really very, very touching. Dr. Shobna ji, truly sensitive topic you have taken up. Even SDG 17, the things we have missed over there, you have enlightened on those grounds. We have with us still now Ms. Sarbani Bhaumik. Ma'am, amazing topic you have taken, and it is so important to take care of your heritage, your legacy. It's very, very important, and we all must work for this. We have with us Professor Afalakimi. I'm thankful to her also for sharing Vice Chancellor's address. I'm grateful to the chairman of ICRT, Mr. Sandeep, Secretary Mr. Sandeep Sehag, who is the pillar of this institution, Research Executive Ms. Arunachal, Finance Executive Ms. Simran, Media Executive Ms. Saima, core members who are working behind the scene, every participant, all the participants who raise question, thank you so much for making this platform so interactive. I really appreciate people from Nigeria, especially. They are so participative, so open, and we learn. This is a true example of cultural diversity. Once again, I'm thankful to everyone who are present over here, especially to the anchor for coordinating such a wonderful show. And definitely, we'll be meeting next for the next conference. Thank you so much. Till then, I hand over the mic to Ms. Rimi. Thank you so much, Rimi. Please take over.
Thank you, Dr. Navneet Kaur, for your valuable contribution to the interactive question and answer session, which enriched our understanding further. Now, I would like to invite Professor Afolakemi Olasumbo Oredian, Provost, Postgraduate College, Lead City University, Ibadan, Nigeria, for formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the Postgraduate College, Lead City University, and by extension, University, we sincerely appreciate ICERT for collaborating with the university for this multidisciplinary international seminar. Such an educative, insightful time that we've had together. Thank you so much. We cannot but also appreciate our distinguished Chief Patron, Director and Head, Education Division ICERT, Professor Navneet Kaur. Also, we want to sincerely appreciate Dr. Sandeep Kumar for all he has done, making this seminar a reality. We are very, very grateful. We also appreciate all the speakers. We appreciate our distinguished speakers, Associate Professor Sobina and Sabini. Thank you for that thought-provoking, educative presentation that you have delivered. We are so much grateful. Also, we want to appreciate all participants, because if you are not here, nothing can be done. For connecting, registering and connecting and waiting to the end of this seminar. We are indeed grateful. And we know that this collaboration will gear and lead to another level of collaboration. Thank you so much, ICERT, for this time. We are very grateful. Thank you.
I must add, Odin, one thing that we must meet in person now. We are waiting for a conference, offline conference, when we can meet each other in person and learn a lot from each other. We are having our next conference in Nepal on 10th, 11th, and 12th June. We really request you, if you wanted to be a part of an international seminar conference, please do register and please be there. You all are welcome over there. Thank you so much. That's an offline conference. Definitely it will be in hybrid mode, but we still expect that participation should be there from Nigeria also.
Hello?
Yes, Odin, you are there.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Odin.
Yeah, okay. I said no problem. We are going to join. We are also hoping that we are going to organize a conference, and it's going to be a collaboration with ICERT by the grace of God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It. Also, please permit me to appreciate my Vice Chancellor. He really tried to join, but the network where he was unable to join. Want to appreciate him, want to appreciate the management. Thank God for the registrar, Dr. Mrs. Oyebola Ayeni. Very, very soon you are going to see the team of Leeds City University, and I know that we've just started the collaboration. More to come, more on the way. Thank you, my colleagues that joined. I can see so many of them that have joined Professor Adebo. So many of them joined the platform. Students, postgraduate students, we appreciate you all. God bless you and thank you. Have a great time.
And congratulations, Professor Rejen. This is Dr. Akobi from Moyo.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for the networking. Thank you for connecting. Thank you so much.
Let's continue. Yeah, Miss Remy, please continue.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for delivering the formal vote of thanks. Now the moment we have all been eagerly anticipating has arrived. It is with great pleasure and honor that we announce the recipients of prestigious Baba Saheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Excellence Award 2024, given by International Council for Education, Research and Training. This award, named in tribute to the great social reformer and architect of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, recognizes individuals who have demonstrated outstanding dedication and contribution to the advancement of society in various fields. After careful consideration and deliberation, we are proud to declare the following individuals as the recipient of the Baba Saheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Excellence Award 2024. The first awardee is Professor Kabiru Adiremi Adeyemo, Vice Chancellor, Leeds City University, Nigeria. Next, Professor Afolakemi Olasunbo Orediyan, Provost, Postgraduate College, Leeds City University, Ibadan, Nigeria. Next, Lieutenant Amit Kumar Chaudhary, 83 UPBN NCC, Saharanpur, Asha Modern International, Janta Road, Saharanpur. Next, Dr. Srividya Muthuvel, TGT, Mansukbai Kothari, National School, Pune. Next, Dr. Jajbir Singh, Head of Department and Associate Professor, Department of Swasthvrita and Yoga, Lal Bahadur Shastri Mahila Ayurvedic College and Hospital, Bilaspur District, Yamunanagar, Haryana. Next, Miss Dimple Juneja, Research Scholar Education from Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur. Next awardee is Mrs. Thanga Asha Aurelia S.A., Professor and Head of Department, Medical Surgical Nursing, East Point College of Nursing, Bangalore. Next awardee, Dr. Rashmi, Assistant Professor, Department of Teacher Education, Kohima Campus, Merima Nagaland University, Kohima, Nagaland. The next is Muhammad Ariful Huk Moral, Department of Arabic, Juria College, Nagaon, Assam. And the last awardee is Abdul Rashid Ansari, Assistant Professor, Juria College, Nagaon, Assam. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to the recipients of Baba Saheb Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Excellence Award 2024. May their achievements continue to inspire progress and upliftment in our society. Now, as we come to the end of our seminar on diversity and inclusion, driving force to innovation and sustainable development, I want to express my sincere appreciation to each of you for your active engagement and valuable contributions. Throughout our seminar, we have emphasized the significance of embracing diversity and fostering inclusive environments. The discussions and insights shared by our esteemed speakers have highlighted how diversity drives innovation, creativity, and progress. We have seen how diversity and inclusion not only spark creativity, but also promote economic growth, social cohesion, and environmental sustainability. I want to extend a special thank to our speakers, moderators, organizers, and sponsors for their dedication and support in making this seminar a success. Your efforts have helped create a platform for meaningful dialogue and action towards building a more inclusive society. Remember, diversity is not just a checkbox to tick off. It's a journey we embark on every day, a journey towards a world where everyone has a seat at the table and voice that is heard. Thank you once again for your participation and commitment. Let's continue this important work together, knowing that our collective efforts can make a real difference in the world. Goodbye for now, and let's keep striving for a more diverse and inclusive future. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.